Technology companies have spent years trying to detect fake images. Apple may be reversing the question. Instead of asking, can we prove this photograph is fake? What if your iPhone could prove that a real camera captured it? But even then, could it prove that the story attached to the photograph is true? I'm Jamie Maglietta. This is Think Like a Producer, the weekday show that really is energizing me and I hope is helping you on your journey from unknown to known. We are breaking down news headlines each day. We're focusing on one story each day right now, and we're finding the angle that your expertise can own to help you become a stronger thought leader that's more appealing to your clients and potentially the press. So Monday through Thursday, I break down one timely story and give you some ideas designed to help you go from unknown to known. Today, we're examining Apple's reported attempt to authenticate real iPhone photos and what this means for journalists, creators, and even business leaders. I'm going to share some headlines to help you get a better understanding of the news story before I break down some ideas. The sources I'm using to flesh out these stories are free resources online. I am not using any news that is behind a paywall right now because I am a solo creator and I'm trying to really stick with things that you can gain access to. 9to5Mac reports that references to a feature called Apple Reference Image were discovered in the 5th beta of the iOS 27. According to the report, users would activate a special camera mode before taking a photograph. The image would then contain information connected to the camera hardware, sensor signatures, and time the image was captured. I am very impressed with the reporting in this because I had no idea. It better all be true. Here's another source I wasn't very familiar with, but it's called Mac Rumors, and they're reporting that users could later tap a reference badge to authenticate the photograph using Apple's private cloud computer infrastructure. The goal would be to establish a verifiable connection between an image and the physical iPhone camera that captured it. So futuristic. But Apple has not publicly announced this feature. It is not currently live. And finding it in beta software does not guarantee that Apple will release it. So I started to dig even more. What is this all about? That's when I found The Verge. This is actually a source I did use before as a journalist in the newsroom, so I felt a little better when I saw this. And this is what you need to do before you start leaning in on a story in the news. You got to do some research. The Verge places the development inside the larger fight against AI-generated deepfakes. Instead of trying to identify every synthetic image, this technology attempts to preserve evidence about where real media originated. But here's the distinction that thought leaders should examine. You know, when looking at stories like this and you come across a cool article and you want to lean in on it, there's a lot of angles you could flesh out. And in a newsroom, we would be having this type of discussion. So I want to make sure that I bring up some arguments that are being made online and help you think through the type of hooks and angles that you could talk about as an expert within your field, depending on your background. Now, if you don't think you can talk about this, I'm here to tell you any news story you can really make into something if your academic background or your lived experience supports the topic. Technology is something we're all using, and we all need to be more mindful of what's out there that is fake, that is generated by AI. So this could be a good topic no matter what your profession is. All right, let's go through some social media posts. This is technology writer Jerry Cards. He identifies the strategic shift on LinkedIn. Most systems ask whether we can detect the fake image. Apple's reported feature would attempt to prove which images are real. That gives journalists and media literacy experts a strong hook to use if you're one of them. This could be what you're asking. It could be a video or a LinkedIn post. If it's a video, remember, it goes overhead or right here, depending if you're doing a talk to camera video, watch my videos on LinkedIn. We may never detect every fake image, right? So the question could be, should we start authenticating the real ones instead? In TV news, we always had this watermark on some videos that were ads. It is kind of similar if you think about it. And maybe a watermark is necessary, but that's my POV. You have to have yours. Your content, depending on your background, could help audiences answer a few questions. These were some that we had. You could ask your audience, does this detect, where an image was originated? Will it tell us if it's been altered? And, will there have to be a caption that accurately describes what is being shown? If these are 3 questions that you could potentially add value on and answer and explain and talk about, that could be a really interesting LinkedIn post or social media video. Sam Gregory is executive director of the human rights organization Witness. He places this Apple report inside a larger movement toward what he's calling authenticity infrastructure. Now, this generated some buzz on LinkedIn. It's worth checking out the post. He connects it to other systems, including I don't really know these systems, but C2PA, Proof Mode, and TruePic. I've heard of TruePic. That gives technology and compliance professionals another angle that you could lean in on if this is your beat. One of the questions or points to make would be trust cannot depend on a label alone. It requires infrastructure. That could be your hot take. You could also then explain maybe what must happen at each stage. If the camera is creating the evidence, there's editing software preserving it, and the platform's displaying it, and the audience understands what it means. How does this all work? If that's your beat, lean in. Because if any part of the chain fails, the credibility becomes less useful, right? So go techie on it. People in your niche will love it. Creators and photographers can also approach this story. Your hook, if that's you, could be, will captured by human become the next watermark? Instead of only showing a polished photograph, you could show, a location and lighting and imperfect attempts as the final result. In a way, you could do something like, here's the AI image, and then here's the photo that you took, and you could have the watermark on it and be clever. I'm not going to give you a demonstration here, but you get what I mean. If you're watching, you see me moving all over the place on YouTube. Oh, by the way, if you are listening to this on your podcast platform of choice, we do appreciate it if you leave a review and follow us on your podcast platform. And if you're watching on YouTube or you'd like to be on YouTube with us, do subscribe to On Cam Ready. As generated imagery becomes common, the human process behind a real image may become part of its value. Business leaders, you also have an angle here. If a photograph could affect an insurance claim, safety investigation, or public reputation, what evidence does your organization preserve? This could be huge, right? So you could start leaning into it and be a forward-thinking thought leader. You could examine how original files are stored, what editing is permitted, and who verifies context before any publication. Apple reference image may not arrive exactly as described in this beta reporting that I found, but the trust problem behind it is already there. Jared Card asks whether we should focus less on detecting every fake or proving what's real. And Sam Gregory reminds us that authentications require an entire chain of infrastructure. The journalist, if that's you could explain why authentic origin does not guarantee accurate context. And if you're a creator, a photographer, you can demonstrate the human process. And as a business leader, I would highly recommend that you examine how visual evidence should be preserved. Strong thought leadership does not simply announce a new feature or react to a headline. It explains what the technology can establish. You have a point of view. And if you have a strong point of view, you can build credibility and your authority online, which could attract clients and potentially the press. And that's what I do for my clients. I work with individuals on their visibility launch online, helping them become more strategic so that they are appealing to their clients, building out content that is effective and potentially attracts the media. I actually only work with individuals who want media at some point. So Think Like a Producer is going to be here every Monday through Thursday with timely news breakdowns on content angles. And when there is breaking news, I may even weigh in as bonus episodes. On Fridays, you can listen to Unknown to Known. That interview podcast will continue on this RSS feed, but on Fridays. And I'll also have media critiques or practical tutorials available on YouTube. The show is produced by On Cam Ready Media. I started On Cam Ready Media officially in 2026, unofficially in 2024. And I help people build their media presence so they can go unknown to known. For more information, visit oncamready.com and explore my media readiness services. I'm Jamie Maglietta. Remember to think like a producer, use the news, find your angle, produce your authority, and find me online.